Are all ready, and it is 3 o'clock. I'd like to call the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. And could I, Willis team, would you begin the meeting with an invocation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let us pray. Dear God, we come today thanking you for all that you have done for us. We ask you to continue to help our country get through this epidemic. We thank you for what you have done while we experience these hardships that prevail throughout our state and the rest of the world. Lord, we ask you to look in on our veterans and families in this county. Protect us as you guide us through these trying times. These things we ask in your name forever. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, amen. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Commissioner Mahoney, would you lead that, please?
I pledge allegiance
The
to the
flag
flag
of the
of the
United
United States of America,
And
for which it stands, one nation,
under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Yes. First of all, I'd like to have a roll call, please. Do that.
Vice Chair Foster.
Here, ma'am.
Commissioner Hovey Wright. Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Her mic was off.
Yeah, sorry.
Hovey Wright.
Here.
Chairman Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Laring.
Here.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Here.
Commissioner Nash. Commissioner Skolnick.
Here.
Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Here.
Present.
Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. First of all, I'd like to explain, this is a new forum for us. We do have all of our Board of Commissioners and administration. Those involved in today's meeting are on this page, and we have the public on another page. The public will be moved in and available to speak when we go to public comment. And I'd like to remind you to make sure your microphone is on when you speak and to not speak over the top of anybody. Let us know when you would like to speak. If I don't recognize your raised hand, please say your name and I'll recognize you when it's time to speak. When you are not talking, you can unmute yourself with your microphone so that there's no feedback. Although there doesn't seem to be any on my end, there could be someone else's. So let's keep our microphones muted while we are not speaking. Next, we will move on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilkins, seconded by Commissioner Nash.
Madam Chair, I have a comment about this.
Yes, Commissioner Laring.
Yes, do we have any public on this?
Yes.
How many people? Because I'm getting phone calls from the public says they can't log on through the system.
Commissioner Laring, I have 61 people logged in, and I have 62 people logged in as public, and I also have 3 people standing by in the IT with a help desk phone that was listed along with the meeting number. If they're having trouble, right next to the number they could log in with is the number they can call for assistance.
Yes, I know, and they've been telling me they've been calling and can't get through to the IT department.
I have 3 people and none of them are on the phone right this moment. So all they need to do is call right now and they'll get right on.
All right,
Go ahead, Commissioner Laring.
So one other issue I've got with this, there are many items on this agenda that should have been put on the committee. I don't know why a lot of these under the administrator's report have not been on any of the committees for debate and conversation.
I think we'll take
Address
that
that.
up when we get to that part of the agenda. Any other questions on approval of the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 I'm
Opposed, the
opposed to
same?
it.
You're opposed to it? Madam Clerk, let's go ahead with a roll call on that, please.
Right. Commissioner Hovey Wright.
I'll be right here.
Answering,
Marcia, we're voting on the approval of the agenda.
Jesus.
Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Here.
Yes or no, lady?
Marcia, we're
No.
voting on the approval of the agenda.
Yes, I said yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Laring. Commissioner Laring,
No,
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick, Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes.
Yes,
8 yes, 1 no.
thank you, and that motion carries. Next, we will approve the minutes of March 26th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hovey Wright, second by Commissioner Skolnick. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Laring,
yes,
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes.
Yes,
9 yes.
thank you, that motion carries. Do we have it, I'm not sure, is Kathy Moore here? Yes, Kathy is here. Next, we have a presentation by the Director of Public Health, Kathy Moore. Kathy, are you ready to give us a presentation?
Yes, I am, Commissioner
Thank you.
Chairperson. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to give the board an update on the status of COVID-19 in Muskegon County. I'm not sure if the commissioners received the most recent profile. We are doing our best to continue to update with statistics and make them available in summaries for our residents. So at this time, we have 75 positive cases. And if you recall, last week at this time, we had approximately 41 or 43, depending on the day. And today we have 75. Last weekend, we talked about a concern with prevalence among African Americans or Blacks in Muskegon County. That prevalence is still maintaining. At this time, of the 75 cases, 42 have been identified as African American, or 56%. Across the state of Michigan, we are 14% of Muskegon County population. The state of Michigan is approximately 14% African American population. They are seeing a increased amount at 40%. Nationally, there is an prevalence of 33%. So Muskegon County prevalence of 56% is particularly concerning. In addition, we are seeing those 75 cases. We are seeing cases among all age groups. Initially, we were very concerned with the impact on those age 70 and above. That has not been what we're seeing in the community. The greatest impact is on residents age 50 to 59 with 18 positive cases, followed by age 60 to 69 with 17 positive cases, with age 70 to 79, 5, and 80 plus 6. We also have 10 cases of residents age 20 to 29, which is not what we expected or anticipated at all. Of the total 75 cases, we have sadly experienced 5 deaths, 2 in the age range of 50 to 59, 1 age range of 60 to 69, 1 70 to 79, and 1 80, over 80. We have also attempted to start depicting the geographical areas on a heat map. Our numbers are still somewhat small, and so it doesn't show as as hot as some other communities at this time. And so we have 2 graphs for you. One is the summary of tests. The other is the cumulative cases, as well as the statistical profiles and dashboard. So I will pause at this time, Commissioner, to see if there is any questions.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for Kathy?
Kathy, or I do, Chairman Hughes. If,
Yes, Commissioner Larry.
So Kathy, in your surveys or your follow-up with the individuals that you're doing, I think you call it trace. What do you call
Yes.
it? So as you're tracking them, do you survey how many of these individuals have had, they use the MAT system?
We don't have specifically for the MAT system. We do have like mode of transportation if we know that they have their own personal car. So we have over 50% who does not have their own car. We have identified through close contact tracing that several of them have more of a personal friend or relatives who take them places where they need to go. The others, we can't 100% assume that they use the MAT system, but it is very likely that they do.
So as I have overlaid your heat map to the MAT service route, they seem to be specifically interconnected.
Well, I would not disagree. Again, the statistical profile shows that communities of color are the highest impact, as well as vulnerable individuals. So it could be anyone of race or gender that has some, I would say, emotional or physical health challenges as well.
So I guess my concern with this is we were lagging significantly behind in March of Ottawa County, which has a larger population than we do, significantly larger population than Muskegon County. And yet we have been gaining ground on them, and now we've surpassed Ottawa County's numbers. And
Commissioner Larry, we're not doing public comments. This is just, if you have a question for Kathy, please ask it and then move on. We'll have other people might have a question. Do you have any more questions for her?
yeah, my question is, I see those 2 issues being directly related. The MATS is in the heat area where all the cases are, and I find it to be a relevant question.
We are still pulling together information there. I did get the message from the last transportation committee meeting of this board to work with MATS and make a recommendation. We do have a recommendation in draft. I'd like to continue to work with Bob Lukens and Jim Coons, as well as share it with Mark Eisenbarth. I guess, so there won't be any surprises. I would say the biggest, possible surprise on that recommendation is that everyone, the drivers as well as the passengers, should be required to wear face coverings. And, initially, we do believe that we can garner support from the community to make face coverings. And then after a certain point, we do want to emphasize personal responsibility. And we just want everyone, if they're going to ride the MATS bus, to wear face covering. So that's the biggest, but I still have other smaller recommendations, meaning taping off certain seats and putting signs at the bus stops and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, go ahead.
Yes, another possible explanation is that, the MATS bus service routes service the high poverty areas. And that's where people live closer together. Social distancing is more difficult. So it's not surprising that the two would coincide, both the incidence of COVID and the bus system, because they're servicing the poverty areas where that's where the number of cases is higher. So
you are absolutely correct.
System.
You're absolutely correct. There are some communities, such as Ottawa, who has a higher number of cases related to travel to, other countries. But Muskegon County, our community spread cases have way surpassed our travel out of state and out of the country travel related cases. So you are correct, Commissioner Hovey-Wright. This is following the population density as well as the vulnerable population residencies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions?
Yeah,
I got a question for you.
Yeah, who is that, Charles?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Couldn't this also be highly related to the fact that we're getting our testing, but our testing is being done late, so we're behind the curve, just like any other state or county or whatever entity. So therefore, this spread may have already been here, and we just don't realize it. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to just the bus system. This could be, it's really speculation. There's no concrete proof to that. But I also wanted to make a suggestion, which I heard some of the other bus systems around the country were doing, because they were still running also, but they were deciding, because they were not taking fares and because they had everyone entering on the rear of the buses, they put up the plastic panel boarding, like you see that they're doing at some of the stores and certain places of service, so they could block the person that's working from having those same particles coming to them from other passengers on the buses. So I would just think that would be something, and I also agree with taping off certain seats. I know it's a tight quarters, but you got to do your best to keep people apart.
Yes, Commissioner. I agree, Commissioner. That is part of our recommendation as a plexiglass border, and we used a picture that the Chicago bus system used, actually not for COVID-19, but to protect some of the violence that was going on. So that is part of the recommendation, the plexiglass shield.
Okay, Commissioner Hovey-Wright.
Yes, thank you, Susie, or
That's close enough.
yeah, okay. That sounds really good, Kathy, in terms of your, some of the preparations, the changes you want to make. They sound all very reasonable. I also kind of want to have us stay kind of ahead of the, planning more ahead. And, I don't know, we don't know when the end of the stay home resolution will be. It's at this point, it's the end of April, could be extended, but do we have, or can we get enough testing and masks and tracing ability for when that happens, so that we can facilitate kind of a more normal return?
Good question.
Return to normal.
Absolutely. We are looking at the post-COVID adaptation. Also, Mercy Health has increased the use of in-house testing. And Matt, we've confirmed with the Healthcare Coalition that the Matt workers are considered a priority. Unfortunately, they're priority category number 5, but they can make the request for personal protective equipment. And it's my understanding that Rich Warner would have reached out to Jim Coons this week to help him go online and make that request. And Commissioner Nash, you are correct. The community spread is not traced specific to one type of community event like riding the bus. So it could still be spread like at the shopping centers as well.
And that's where I agree with Commissioner Hovey Wright. I think it's imperative that we push ahead and try to see how, because I haven't heard of a central testing site or much information about how we're educating the public for those that may suspect they may have it on ways that they could go in and get testing. I know we said that they're supposed to contact their doctor, but looking at the post situation, I think it's imperative we get a central testing site that people are educated and familiar with, so that we can try to catch up on this testing situation, so we know where we're at and what numbers we really have, and what kind of actions we might need to take in the future with possible quarantines or staying at home, whatever we have to do.
So, Commissioner, we do not get to decide who gets tested. The CDC, because of limited supplies, have set the prioritization, and then the state of Michigan has set even stricter prioritization for those testing supplies than the CDC has set. The good news though is that there are some manufacturers that are promoting and producing the rapid testing, which the state of Michigan does not consider a confirmed laboratory test, but it does give people an indication if they have it or not. One of the messages we're trying to give is that testing does not change treatment. So if someone tests positive, I mean, first of all, the executive order is to stay home. So everybody should still stay home as much as possible, only out for essential services. But if someone is experiencing symptoms, of course, they will be moved up on the testing criteria. But also, the state of Michigan just today has at least expanded the criteria to mild symptoms for essential workers. And so we do have workers that work at, in addition to the hospital, we have workers working at adult foster care facilities and nursing homes. And we were prioritizing testing for those patients and workers who had severe symptoms. And now we can at least expand that to those with mild symptoms.
Thank you very much.
Kathy,
Go ahead, Ms. Commissioner Wilkins.
Kathy,
Yes,
this
Commissioner.
is Commissioner Wilkins. Can you give us an explanation or some kind of easier way than what we're finding, trying to explain why the death rate appears to be higher in the Black people than the white people?
I think there's multiple factors, Commissioner, and one of them is that our prevalence of health and illness is higher, and it could be that we're more susceptible, but there could be a social distancing concern, and similar to what Commissioner Hovey Wright said. Because they're in the urban communities and the living situation, they may not be able to social distance as much or freely as some people in the suburbs or rural areas.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I've gotten a lot of calls on it, and you try to, make some sense of it. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one more question for you, Kathy.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Henry.
So did I hear that correctly, that the MATS drivers are out of PPE?
No, I think they may have some level of PPE. What I said was that the Healthcare Coalition, they are They are ranked in the priority for receiving PPE, prioritization number 5. So we just want to make sure that Jim Coons, I'm sorry, has made the request to get it. So we can't wait until we're out before we request to be replenished. We just need that order to get in, and they have to make that order.
So currently, they do have PPE. The drivers have been issued what they need.
And so that question is probably best answered by either Bob Lukens or Jim Coons. It was my understanding that they had appropriate PPE at this time.
Okay.
Commissioner Lukens, or Bob, Director Lukens, can you answer that for us?
Yes, we do have appropriate PPE for the drivers, masks and gloves. And they also have sanitizer on the buses. And the buses are also cleaned by the drivers, you know, in between their turnarounds. They go over the areas that are frequently touched and such. The drivers are noticing that more and more people are wearing their own personal protective equipment too. So people are wearing masks and gloves themselves.
I have a question.
Thank you, Bob. Just a minute, Charles. Commissioner Hovey Wright's been waiting.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Marcia.
To Commissioner. In answer to further answer Realstein's question, there is a higher incidence of diabetes in the Black population and
Yes, I
minority
recognize that.
also of asthma, I believe heart disease as well, and then there's always the access to healthcare. So there's a whole bunch of reasons, and this is pointing out our need to address those.
Right.
Thank you. Commissioner
Thank you.
Nash, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask Bob, are we requiring our drivers to wear these masks? And if not, do we plan to do that in the future?
I believe they are required through the union. The union asks them to wear masks and protective gloves. And our own MATS administration has asked them to do that too, for their own safety and the safety of the passenger.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I could just say something,
certainly, Bob.
because I have to transport my wife, I have to wear a mask and gloves. I do that. I don't know if anybody's actually worn one of those masks for more than 15 or 20 minutes.
They're not comfortable.
They are exceedingly uncomfortable. You can't breathe very well. I'm not making an excuse for anybody. I'm just saying it's an unpleasant experience just to wear one.
Thank you.
Can I add something to that?
Certainly, go right ahead.
Bob, I think it greatly depends on the type of mask that you have too.
Yes.
And I will say that my daughter ordered me one. I've been wearing the normal mask at work, and I've worn 3 different kinds, and they are very uncomfortable. But the one that she ordered from me was the handmade, and it was the cloth made, and it was just a lot more relaxing, and I could wear it comfortably without a lot of pressure. And I'd forget I'd have it on sometimes, except for when I started talking.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Very, very helpful update. I really appreciate it.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Now we will move on to public comment. And I'd like to start public comment by mentioning that right now we have 98 people on this WebEx today with us. But I have received a public comment from a resident who asked me to start, and I'm going to go ahead and start with that question. And it is,
Hey, budget report?
pardon me?
On the agenda, there's a finance director's budget report.
That's
Finance.
Dick.
Oh, right. That's
Oh, I'm sorry, Beth, I skipped you. No, it's actually, Director of Public, oh, Beth, is this where you wanted to do yours too?
Yes.
This is a presentation by Beth.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
No problem at all. Good afternoon, Beth Dick, Director of Finance. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
It's a little low.
A little low? I'm not even sure where my microphone is on the. Oh, Ivan, am I running this or are you doing it? Yes, you are.
Ivan has control of the slides. You'll need to let him know when you're ready to show them.
I will, thank you.
Okay.
As a slideshow,
Yep, the slideshow is up.
I turned my thing off.
go up to the top, Ivan, where it says slideshow and click on that.
It says impact of the COVID-19 crisis.
Right, but at the very top on the toolbar, it says slideshow, and it'll actually put it to a full screen as a slideshow. Do you not want to do it that way, or
Very top,
very top?
over to your right. No,
All the way up to the top where it says home, insert,
Oh,
design.
wait, way up here on the, right there.
there you go.
Yep,
Make it
and
big.
from the beginning.
There you go.
Perfect.
Thank you. Wonderful, thank you. Yes, Beth Dick, Director of Finance. Good afternoon, everyone. If we could go actually to the next slide. So we thought we'd start out this presentation with some words from one of our esteemed department heads that wishes to remain anonymous, but I think it captures the way that a lot of us are feeling, or most of us are feeling, as we're dealing as public servants with this crisis. And so I'll just read the words that one of our department heads put together. So, unlike the businesses that operate in the private sector, we in public service have a different purpose entirely. In those rare and extreme circumstances when our offices must be closed to the public, the needs of those we serve not only remain, they are often magnified. The restaurant that has been closed for the past 3 weeks will never again need to prepare and serve the meals that were never ordered. The shuttered bowling alley doesn't need to reschedule every frame that its patrons didn't bowl. However, every day since March 16th, there have been citizens in the county that have needed things like birth or death certificates. They have needed their legal claims heard by a judge. They have needed the protection of our laws as provided by our law enforcement officers, as well as needed public health and mental health services. Those needs not only remain, they continue to grow every day, whether we are open or closed, and eventually each one needs to be addressed. That is why it is crucial that we have trained and capable staff available to meet and address the needs of our citizens during the governor's stay-at-home, stay-safe executive order, as well as the very moment that we are able to safely open our doors to the public. I think that is very well said and speaks to what we all think during this time as public servants too. Next slide, please. So the board requested information at the last full board meeting on the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on the county's finances. And information, we've been gathering information since that full board meeting. It's been occurring over the last 2 weeks. Departments were asked to estimate the impact on their revenues of the COVID-19 crisis. There are still many unknowns. Don't have a crystal ball to really know the answers. How long will this crisis or closure last? What revenue losses are permanent? What revenue losses will be recovered when we are back open? What state and federal assistance is available? These are all things that we're still trying to learn about and figure out and wait for answers on. Next slide, please. So I thought I'd start with a little reminder of the county's structure and how we operate. This is the table that shows how our different functions are categorized by different types of funds. So we talk about the general fund all the time and what its purpose is. And the general fund is the primary operating fund of the county. Property taxes are the primary source of revenue for the general fund. And you can see under that far left column, all of the things that come underneath the general fund in terms of the county operations. And salaries and fringes of its employees make up over 50% of those expenses. And as I mentioned, property taxes are the primary source of revenue. Then we have special revenue funds, and you can see the list of those funds. Those account for specific activities requiring separate accounting because of a legal or regulatory provision or administrative action. Many of them are grant funded, and the revenues are primarily from state and federal sources, charges for services, and the general fund does also contribute many of these funds that are considered to be special revenue funds. Then we've got our debt and capital project funds, which you can see the list of here as well. And they account for the accumulation of resources for the debt funds to pay principal and interest on our debt. And those revenues come primarily from millages or transfers from other funds. And then the capital project funds account for financial resources used to acquire or construct capital facilities, and the revenues tend to come from bond proceeds or fund reserves. Our internal service funds, as the fourth column lists, are those that account for the financing of goods and services provided by one county department to another on a cost reimbursement basis. And then last but not least are the enterprise funds, that account for operations that are business type activities, and they provide goods and services to the general public. And the source of their revenues is primarily user fees for things like at wastewater and solid waste and regional water. Next slide, please. Another little bit of a reminder slide here is a graph, and I pulled this from my presentation that I did back in September when we were approving, or when the budget was presented to you for fiscal 2020. This depicts how the general fund revenues are divided by the various categories. And again, the largest component are the taxes, which includes not only property taxes, but there are some other smaller taxes. Liquor tax money is included in that category. So that's over half of our revenues. The next largest component is the orange slice at just under 20% of charges for services. And then the next group is the yellow intergovernmental, which is where our revenue sharing and other funds that come from the state are categorized. Next slide, please. So focusing on the general fund first here, the general fund, we budgeted, the board approved the budget for fiscal 2020 of $50 million in budgeted revenues, and it was a balanced budget. There's also a corresponding $50 million in expenditures. So property tax revenues by themselves make up 26 million of that at about 53% of total revenues. We have looked into this and done research to determine whether or not we think our property tax revenues will be impacted due to the COVID-19 crisis. And at this time, it is not expected to be an impact for this fiscal year. These taxes are levied on July 1st, and they are collected through September. Usually today is September 15th. Budgeted a 3% increase in taxable value for this fiscal year, and based on the way all the assessment numbers are coming in to date, it looks like we're going to be at about a 3.5% increase. So we're slightly above what that budgeted increase was. There is a possibility, because of the COVID-19 crisis, that we'll have more delinquent taxes this year. The loss of jobs, people may not be able to pay their taxes timely, so we may end up having more taxes go delinquent, which could have an impact on our cash flow as we get later into our fiscal year. State revenue sharing is a almost a $3.8 million revenue in our budget, and those funds come from state sales taxes collected by the state. The county receives payments quarterly from the state for that revenue, and COVID-19 will most definitely impact that revenue, but at this point, we're not sure to what extent. I'm going to be on a webinar on Monday, put on by the State Department of Treasury, and one of the topics is revenue sharing. So if they share any information during that webinar to see if we can get any more information. But at this point, it's still not known what the impact is. Next slide, please. Personal property tax reimbursement. This is a separate revenue. It's several years ago. It was back in 2013, I believe. The state made personal property exempt from having to pay taxes, and that in effect had a negative effect on our revenues that we bring in. So what the state has done is started to provide us a reimbursement for those revenue losses. We've got a budget of just under $1.5 million in the general fund for fiscal 20. So the state again reimburses us for that. We see one payment in October and one in May. These payments are not subject to the annual appropriation, but the legislature could amend what's called the Local Community Stabilization Act and could potentially cut that revenue to us. We don't have an answer. We don't know what could happen with that revenue at this time. Charges for services is a large amount of the revenues that come into the general fund, over $10 million, and various departments in the general fund receive revenues for the services they perform, and I've listed some of the larger ones here: Register of Deeds, all of the recordings and the transfers that happen bring into Register of Deeds office a little under 1.2 million. District Court has about 1.7 million in charges for services. Circuit Court, 240,000. Equalization has contracts with many municipalities to do assessing services, and that brings in about 1.1 million. Sheriff has several revenues that are charged. He brings in charges for inmate reimbursement and various other things at just under 2 million. Animal control, which is all the animal licensing, is just under $500,000. The county clerk has various fees and charges that are in her budget that are just under $500,000. And the administrative cost allocation is about 2.2 million. That's where the central services of the county, such as accounting, HR, admin, treasurer's office, those services, the costs are accumulated and then charged out to the various other county departments and brings revenue into the general fund. So those are some of the primary things that make up the $10 million in charges for services. Slide, please. Those, I just reviewed the general fund. Then looking at all funds revenues for the entire county, and the general fund's included in here just from a different perspective. Whereas general fund, the property tax revenues are the largest source of revenue. When you look at it on a county-wide basis, the largest component is that Blue Slice, which is charges for services, and that's primarily because the wastewater revenues, Health West revenues, solid waste revenues, those are all considered charges for services on a county-wide basis. That's the larger portion of revenues when you look at the county as a whole. Taxes, when you look at the county-wide, is only 16% of total county-wide revenue. So just for a comparison purpose, that slide in as a slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, we spent the last 2 to 3 weeks working with departments and asking them to analyze and determine what the COVID-19 crisis, what impact it has on their revenues. And next several slides are going through basically department by department and letting you know what information they've provided to us so far. So district court and sobriety court, excuse me, their total general fund revenues in total are about 2.3 million. And then they have the sobriety court outside the general fund is another $500,000 in revenues. Their analysis showed that they're seeing revenues down in the general fund about $35,600 a week for every week of the closure. So you'll see it in a few slides later how I've pulled that together in terms of what the total impact of that looks like on the county's general fund budget. But they've done a fairly in-depth analysis, and that's what they've come up with. And in terms of their staffing, they have a total of 50 staff. 10 are currently working full-time. 36 are working part-time, so something less than 40 hours a week. And then there's currently 4 individuals that are not working. Circuit and Family Court, their general fund revenues are only about $252,000, but the family court, which is outside the general fund, and there's some other smaller grant funds that are outside the general fund, have about $6.8 million in revenues. They do not anticipate that the crisis will have any change in their revenues at this time. There is some thought also that there may be additional revenues that they will be able to obtain because some of the stimulus money may be coming in to the courts for paying various charges for services that the courts issue to people. So there may be potentially even some increased revenues. They have 86 staff, and of those staff, all of them are working full-time as of, I believe, starting this week. Probate court has about $50,000 in general fund revenues, and currently revenues are down about 25% just for the closure period. Excuse me. There are 7 staff, and all are working full-time. Equalization has just about 1.1 million in general fund revenues. They do not anticipate the crisis will have any change in their revenues, and all of their 20 staff are currently working full-time. County clerk, which includes circuit court records and then the elections staff, have about $519,000 worth of general fund revenues, and then there's a smaller amount, about $78,000 in other funds outside the general fund. I do anticipate there could be some reduction in revenues, but at this time the amount is unknown. They have 12 staff, 3 are working full-time, and 9 are working part-time. Next slide, please. The Register of Deeds currently has 1.3 million in general fund revenues and 174,000 outside the general fund. Their March revenues are down about 37% from last year, and the first few weeks of April are also showing that they're down. They have 6 staff, and all are working full-time. The Treasurer's Office, which also I've included the Delinquent Tax Fund, which is also under the Treasurer, as well as Land Bank, 39 million of general fund revenues, and that's because the property tax revenues all reside in the Treasurer's budget. And there's about 4.1 million outside the general fund, and that's really where the Land Bank and the Delinquent Tax Fund goes up. They do not anticipate any change in their revenues due to the crisis. They have 12 staff, 8 are working full-time, and 4 are working part-time. The Drain Commissioner has 77,000 in general fund revenues. Does not expect any change in revenues due to the crisis. There are 2 staff members working full-time. Prosecutor has about 48,000 in general fund revenues and 475,000 in other grant funds outside the general fund. They do not anticipate any change in their revenues, and they have 33 staff. 3 are working full-time and 30 are working part-time. Human Resources has 85,000 in general fund revenues. They do not anticipate any change crisis in their revenues. They have 12 staff, and depending on the week, a payroll week tends to be higher staffing than a non-payroll week. So there are 4 to 10 people working full-time on a payroll week, and then 2 to 8 people working part-time, depending on, again, if it's a payroll or non-payroll. Next slide, please. The sheriff has a large general fund portion, 2.3 million in general fund revenues, and then there are several grant funds outside the general fund that have 1.3 million in revenues. They do anticipate some revenue reductions due to lower inmate population, being state reimbursements and other fees. Excuse me. The staff, I broke it down by the various departments since there are so many. The jail has 51 staff, 50 are working full-time, and 1 is on military leave. Road Patrol has 35 staff, and all are working full-time. Courtroom Security has 11 staff, and all are working full-time. Building Security has 7 hourly staff, none of which are working currently. Community Corrections has 6 staff, 1 is working full-time, and 5 are not working. Administration has 4 staff, and all are working full-time. And then their records area has 8 staff, 6 are working full-time, and 2 are not working. Slide, please. Accounting. The accounting department does not have any direct revenues. There are 9 staff members, 7 are working full-time, and 2 are working part-time. Administration also does not have any direct revenues, and there are 4 staff, and all are working full-time. Public Health has $6.3 million in revenues. There's possible grant revenue that will be lost as to the crisis, resulting in a deficit of $260,000. There are 55 staff at Public Health. 7 are working full-time, 34 are working part-time, and 14 are not working. Health West has $66.5 million in revenues. There is no financial loss anticipated, and potentially more state revenues are going to be available for mental health services. There are 379 staff, and all are working full-time. Public Defender has $2.7 million in revenues. There is no reduction in the grant revenues due to the crisis. And there are 21 staff members. 1 is working full-time, and 20 are working part-time. JTC has $2.6 million in revenues. They do not anticipate any changes in their revenues, and there are 31 staff. All are working in accordance with their schedule. They have several hourly employees, and all of them are working in accordance with what their normal schedule is. Slide, please. Convention and Visitors Bureau has almost 1.8 million in revenues. Hotel rooms are at about 5 to 25% occupancy. Anticipated a loss in revenues for April of about 86,000, and then May another 122,000. There are 6 staff, and 4 are working full-time, and 2 are not working. Parks has $854,000 in revenues. The loss in revenues for May is estimated to be 35,000. There are 3 staff who are working full-time, and 1 is working part-time. Emergency services, 139,000 in revenues. No change is in the budgeted revenues, but there's a possibility of additional grant revenues that will be available. 1 staff member is working full-time. Transit has just under $7.5 million in revenues. There is a loss in local fare revenues, advertising revenues, concession revenues. Federal resources have been made available to offset these losses. There are 47 staff, 11 are working full-time, 21 are working part-time, and 15 are not working. The airport has almost 1.6 million in budgeted revenues. Estimated loss is 50,000 from parking lot commission and passenger facility charges that are down. There are 7 staff members, and all are working full-time. Information Systems has just under $3 million in revenues. There is no change in revenues anticipated. There are 12 staff members and all are working full-time. Office services has a little over $500,000 in revenues. Revenues are based on the usage by internal departments, and they have 2 staff and both are working part-time. Department of Veterans Affairs has $412,000 in revenues. They don't anticipate any change in their revenues, and the staff are both working full-time. Public Works, which includes facilities management, solid waste, and regional water, has $247,000 general fund revenues and about $7.2 million outside the general fund. Facilities management does not anticipate any change in their revenues. Solid waste and regional water revenues are actually up over budget, and there are 22 staff members, 21 are working full-time, and 1 is working part-time. Wastewater has almost $20 million in revenues. Revenues are also currently higher than budget in the wastewater department. There are 42 staff, 40 are working full-time, and 2 are not working. Slide, please. So just focusing on the general fund, I have taken the information that has been provided by the various departments, and at this point, the only areas that are really estimated to be down, and again, this is estimated, I've included on the state line, this breaks our revenues down by the various major categories. The state category I've reduced by $472,000, and that's just an estimate for the state revenue sharing, assuming that we would lose about a month and a half worth of our budgeted revenues due to the crisis. Again, that's just an estimate at this point in time, not knowing what that is going to look like from the state's perspective. But I've taken 1.5 months worth of revenues, subtracted it there. Charges for services, I've taken the feedback I've gotten from district court, from Register of Deeds, and a few of the other departments, the sheriff, and just tried to extrapolate and estimate based on what they've seen, what that revenue reduction might look like, and came up with another $500,000. So basically, coming up with just under $1 million in reduced revenues, general fund, and this is assuming reflecting the crisis impact through May 1st. If things go beyond May 1st, obviously that number will be greater. This is what I've been able to come up with based on what departments have provided and tried to analyze, and appreciate all the work they've done on. Slide, please. Mark, is this where you wanted to go?
Got my mic on now. Turn it down. What we had the directors look at is what's our options, furlough, layoffs. And as we go through that whole process, we wanted to see what our employees thought as well. And so we had our directors reach out to some of them. And what's interesting on this is on the furlough, there's pros and cons.
There's an echo. I can't hear very well. I don't know how to get rid of the echo on your voice, Mark.
Mark, your microphone. Yeah.
That better?
Yeah.
Yes.
You still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody else, please mute their microphone so Mark can talk. Go ahead, Mark.
All right, so what we want to do is look at the options between the two and really understand what it means for our employees, what it means for our county administration staff, directors, each department. Number one, if you did a furlough, the employee maintains the status as a county employee. If it's laid off, the employee is separated from the employment. Number two, flexibility on how many unpaid hours a week. So a furlough could be 8 hours, it could be 4 hours, it could be 20 hours. It's really flexible. When you get laid off, obviously it's 40 hours per week. The main employee health insurance benefit remains, which is a big plus for a furlough. Health insurance benefit is terminated when you're terminated from the county. Number 4, maintain sick and vacation leave accruals in seniority. Obviously, number 4, accumulated sick and vacation balance would be paid out, but again, you're no longer a county employee. Number 5, no union bumping options. Where number 5 on laid off, there are bumping options where employees, well, seniors, obviously has the bumping right, the less senior employee. Number 6, employees are able to file for unemployment and qualify for that $600 that their feds are passing down. Same thing with unemployment. You'd obviously apply for unemployment and you would apply for that 600 as well. Flexibility to resume to work. We could call the employees the next day to bring them back to work. Where a layoff, it goes through, the county has to go through a hiring process to bring an employee back. Because again, remember, they've been severed from the county, so they would have to reapply or be requested brought back. Furloughs are very flexible, as though you could implement the next day, which I would not suggest the next day. 8, for require notification period up to 7 to 14 days. And what that means, some union contracts require 7-day notice, while other ones require a 14-day notice to be able to lay off. Next slide, please. So when we asked our commissioners, asked us to look into this, we also asked our directors to take a look and what it does to employees. And under this circumstance of the COVID-19, what we find out is, and I agree, it's very nerve-wracking to be out in the public. The governor's asked us to stay home. They asked us if we could figure out ways to work from work. This excludes Health West numbers, but all the other departments, I have roughly 160 people working away from home, working away from their office space. In other words, they're working at home, a remote site. As Beth reported, there's 43 people not working at all because they don't either have access to a computer or their work is only can be done in the county building of some sort. So again, there's 43 of those. So when our directors start talking to the employees to see, if a volunteer furlough, what would that look like to them? We've actually had 40. Let's see, we actually had. I have that number right here. I don't want to misquote it. We had roughly 23 employees volunteer to take a furlough, and so we want to really understand why. And the concern is obviously is catching the COVID-19 and taking it home to their family is a major concern. If they have kids at home or others at home, they don't want to bring that back. And I can understand that too. So there's roughly 23 people who said they would volunteer to be to take a furlough day. Again, what we're saying is those who take a furlough day, for example, would be notified and asked to take their first day starting next Monday, if that's something the board is interested in. And then they would come back as soon as the order is lifted from the governor. The other ones, the 43 furloughs, would be those employees who are not working at all. Again, it could change, depends on which department you're in. The reason I say that, because the courts have their own executive order that comes in from the Supreme Court. And it doesn't necessarily always agree with the governor's executive order. So if the executive order that's coming in to the court saying you have to do X, Y, Z, they may need those employees back to do that work as well. Was there a question, Susie, Commissioner? Your mic's on, I can't hear you. It's off.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. So make sure I talked about everything here. Again, we had employees who volunteered for furloughs. We've had employees identified for furloughs. And if there's any considered for the other option, which is a layoff, that option has to be brought to the board with the positions. And I don't have any positions as of the day to bring to the board as a layoff. That would have to go through the process of notifying the union stewards, discussing the bumping rights. All that would have to take place. And something like that would have to be brought back to the board sometime in the future for them to vote on that as well. So based on what everything Beth went through, all the directors has put a lot of work in this whole week. Last week, there's been a lot of hours spent on this, trying to figure out what's best for each department and how this would look going forward. So it'd be my recommendation, again, permission to begin the furlough process with department heads on individual basis. That ends our presentation, so open for questions.
Madam Chair, may I? Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, go right ahead, Gary. I'm sorry, I had to mute myself.
No problem. Mark, has any of the directors came to you recommending a layoff other than a furlough?
I had one department who would recommend that. Yes.
And what department would that be, sir?
Those employees at our transportation.
Thank you.
I had a question for you, Mark.
Yes, go right ahead.
My question is I'm all for the furlough. I think the furlough is a great idea. It'll save us a lot of time and money in trying to resource people. And I think helping people keep their health care is probably the best thing that we can do. But we're talking about those that are interested in volunteering. Will there also be those that will be mandated to take a furlough? And also, if they volunteer to take the furlough, can they volunteer to bring themselves back?
As far as bringing them back, it would be up to the director at that point to bring them back. As we're guaranteeing everybody who's volunteered furlough, make sure I say it correctly, volunteered furlough and furloughs will all come back when the executive order is ended. So to answer your question, if I take a furlough day today and then decide next week to come back, no, that was not the intent. The intent, for those who volunteer, what we're finding out, most of them, they want to stay safe and don't want the risk of affecting their family. And that's what we're hearing from most of those who volunteer. There are some who volunteer. There's other ones who volunteer just says, I'll do whatever's best for the county.
But what about those that it may be a furlough suggested and they don't want to take the time off?
There are some departments that have identified those who do not have anything to do. I mean, there's not work for them, so they would be identified as a furlough.
Go ahead, Marcia. You need to unmute yourself.
Mark, do you need a motion to that effect to recommend furlough? So
I would leave that up to Madam Chair.
Oh, okay. So let me say what I have to say then. I think definitely furlough is the way to go. We want to treat our employees well. When we treat them well, then they treat the county well. The layoff, I think my biggest concern with layoff option is that they lose their health care. I mean, in this time, we cannot be doing that to the people we value. So that would be my input on it. But in looking at the department by department analysis that Beth did in such great detail, there are a couple of concerns I have. One is public health. They do have a big deficit or a big reduction in their revenue, but there are 34 people working part-time and 14 not working. And in the middle of a health crisis, it doesn't make sense to me, but I don't know why the revenue was down. So anyway, I just want to make a comment about that. And then the Register of Deeds has a 37% reduction in revenue, but everybody's working full-time. So it doesn't kind of jive with the facts there. Prosecutor, 30 people working part-time now, and maybe we just don't have enough we're not doing as much in the prosecution. Anyway, there were just some concerns. Oh, and then the sheriff, the fact that there are significant reductions in the inmate population, but no reduction in the jail staff.
Good
One of
point.
those,
All right, go ahead.
if I may, each one of those
Yes,
directors
please.
are online. If you would like to hear from them, I
Yeah.
can.
Probably Kathy Moore and Sheriff Poulin.
Sheriff Poulin, are you there?
Kathy Moore is here.
Okay, Kathy, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question to Commissioner Hovey-Wright.
Sure.
So we, here in public health, we actually operate 43 unique programs and services. And one of the programs would be the restaurant inspections, where our environmental health officers go into the restaurants and the schools to inspect the cafeterias and things like that. So with the restaurants being closed, we have fewer demand. Another would be we inspect and permit well and septic in the field at residential places. We inspect swimming pools, camping grounds, and a lot of the anticipated in the summer, and it still could happen, temporary food licenses. So a lot of those businesses are not operating right now. Only those businesses, according to the executive order, only those businesses that can meet the essential services. Also, within our department, we have a lot of person-to-person touch services, like weights and measures for the youth, immunizations, which is a direct touch, can't 6 feet distancing, and then I think the other challenge for us that maybe some of the other departments don't experience is that because of HIPAA and patient protected information, I cannot allow my employees to pull up a Muskegon County resident file and possibly leave that open, or it'd be seen by somebody else. So we do have to take extra precautions as it relates to a good percentage of our services. In addition, because we need to practice what we preach, and our executive order, we are the department that is enforcing some of the public health standards related to the executive order. So we get about almost sometimes 30 phone calls a day from residents and workers who feel like some of their employers are violating the social distancing order. So we are enforcing that, but in addition, we have to practice what we preach. And so we will not bring all of our employees in and expose them and the rest of us on a regular basis. So that's part of the explanation.
Okay, that's understandable. I hadn't thought about that. One note I would pass on, however, is that when I was doing an order takeout in a particular small restaurant, I watched them make my fish, and there were no gloves being used. So we might want to check on that. Make sure.
We will send out a reminder, and we do have staff coming in, checking that message and following up with those restaurants.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yes, Madam.
Gary, go ahead.
Is Jim Coons on?
Mr. Lukens is, for sure.
Bob, maybe you could answer. Why was Matt's looking at layoffs versus furloughs?
That question can be answered in the fact that when we come out of this, crisis, MATS will undoubtedly be a different system. So we will have to take a look at staffing, or we did take a look at staffing, and as many staff would not apparently be needed. when we come out of this crisis.
So, am I right, Bob, in assuming, so then you as the director are asking actually for a layoff of those personnel for that reason?
At this time, if that's the direction that the board decides to go, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Madam Chair, I have a question for
Yes,
Mark.
Commissioner Larian, go ahead.
So if we do the furlough, we have 43 employees that are not working at all, correct? Are you going to furlough all 43 or just the 23 that volunteered?
No, the number is greater than that. I'm looking at 39 as the number has been turned into me. So the numbers that Beth presented are numbers that came in of the last week. So we may have had a few employees return to work as of yesterday.
And
But right now I have a 39 total.
so of that 39 that are not doing any work, they're drawing full compensation.
Correct.
I got a question for you too.
Yes, go ahead.
On the mat situation, the numbers I believe said that we had 11 or was it 21 working full time, and so many working part time, and then there's 15 that are not working. Are those 15 being paid at this time?
Yes, currently everybody's being paid.
Okay, so if you furlough, is it going to be the 15 only or the other?
No,
And then my other concern is that I thought we were getting some support from the federal government on this, so that we could put some people back into the system to help us circulate those buses more and get them clean more. And the compensation was coming from the federal government. So are we still looking at that, or are we just looking to lay those people off?
Well, as far as the matt's concerned, I want to sit down with the union rep and discuss those and bring that motion back to Ways and Means and full board, because there is a timeline on that one particular. It's 15 days before you can do layoffs on that one. So that particular department would obviously be brought back, and I have to show you the names and who they are. So that'll be more great detail. So I'll have better answers for you on Ways and Means and full board for that one. But there is a process that I have to follow for the union contracts.
So what are you saying though, is that if we went through the furlough process, we could negate all that?
Well, what I'm saying is we can go ahead and furlough those employees as well as the other ones that we're referring to, which the total then would be 62 total. Commissioner Laring asked for that number, but the total number right now identified as 62, including transportation, and they would be furloughed until the board decides at the next full board meeting whether or not they should be laid off or not. And that's when we bring in more information. That's when Jim is prepared to bring in more information on that. But yes, they could be furloughed as of Monday as well.
And that's what I think it's better that we go through stages, because we don't know what the future is going to bring. And as far as transportation changing, we don't really know what's going to happen with transportation. We were still in limbo before this happened. So I think we need to take our time before we just be hasty. I know we want to save money. We're not gonna save the county. We're all gonna take a hit everywhere, anywhere, and all over this county and all over this country. Matter of fact, all over the world. But problem is that I don't want us to move so fast and so hastily to just cut people, because I think we started out by saying we really want to look after our employees and take care of them, and we can figure out whether we need to lay those folks off in time.
So as far as the furlough, you're okay with furlough?
I think the furlough should be blanketed across the county for all the employees.
Marcia? You need to unmute yourself.
When you say furlough, Mark, does that mean 0 hours? Or does that mean a reduction in hours? Because there's a lot of different ways to furlough.
Yeah, well, the number we're looking at is those who are identified. The 62 of them would be 0 hours. In other words, they'd be furloughed for those 40 hours per week.
Okay.
And can I say something
But
else?
with insurance, with health insurance.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Now I have a question on that. Did those people realize that that's what you were intending, was to furlough them for all 5 days of the week? Or were they expecting 1 day a week?
The ones who volunteered, the 23 who volunteered, yes.
Okay. You know, I guess I will have to say, I have a real problem with laying off or furloughing anybody that you've not gone through the director with. Because first of all, they could be very valuable to the department and they really can't lose them. And second, I think it should be vetted through the director who is valuable and who's not, and whether they want to lose that employee or not. I don't think that should be an administration decision or a decision that comes from finance. I think it should be in the best interest of running the county.
Madam Chair, I agree 100% with you, and these numbers came from the directors.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Commissioner Wilkins, unmute yourself. Realistic, yeah, there you go, perfect.
Right. Okay. I think that since we've discussed that here today, I would like for the transportation department to go over this thoroughly before we decide to implement it. Let's talk about it. Mark, is that possible?
On behalf of the furlough or layoff?
Pardon?
The furlough
Yes, the
is
furlough.
separate.
I'd like for us to discuss this more and
For
then
the
make sure where we're going with it, because I don't want us to make a mistake, do something and have to come back and get
For
it
the-
all messed up.
Just to,
Can I
thank you
ask
for
a
to be
question?
for be clear, is that transportation as in Matt's only or all departments?
Okay. Well,
I understand what Commissioner Wilkins is saying, and I agree with that too. I think that needs to come from the department head. There might be people in a department that really need to be laid off. But on the other hand, I find it hard to believe that there's almost 400 people at Health West. They're running their whole show online and they don't have anybody they can lay off or anybody they can furlough. So I think there needs to be some reasonable discussion with the directors. If we have a recommendation from a director like we do from Matt's, that's a different situation. But until the director can step up and say, I don't need this person in the jobs we have now, or I don't need this, it doesn't look like I'm going to need this person at all, I would rather go with layoff. I think that should be a director's decision as they move forward. So I'd really like you to work with them on whatever decision we make today, or if we postpone this decision for another time. At the current time, we already have the employees paid through April 30th.
Correct. Yes.
On this,
Yes, Commissioner Nash.
I would like to make the suggestion that we go ahead and allow furloughs for the 23 people that are volunteering to take furloughs now. And then we further discuss this option, because I think maybe we want to extend this until this 30-day or until the April 30th, and then look at moving to furloughs if this extension goes further. Because if it doesn't go further, we have no need. But if it does go further, then I would agree to implement at that time the continued furlough process.
Commissioner Nash, is that a motion?
Yes.
Point of order, that can be under new business.
Commissioner Nash, is that a motion?
That would be a motion that I would make.
Yes. Is there a second to that?
Point of
And
order.
again, just for clarity,
Point of
Okay.
what
order.
I'm
This
saying
is a
is that we would
presentation.
have 23 people that are volunteering for furlough, and then we would extend this process to April 30th, and then look at further furloughs if necessary, if this stay-at-home order continues. So that's what I'm motioning about.
Okay.
Thank you. I
This
do have a
is-
second from Marcia Hovey-Wright.
Point of
Yeah.
Can you
order.
tell me if that it is proper to make a motion during this time?
what?
Michael Hamir?
Yep. So your board rules on these say that these motions have to be first referred to committee. So it doesn't necessarily in the agenda state where it will be where motions are appropriately made. I recall that this was discussed, I think, in part in a committee hearing, and then up for full board discussion on the potential for furlough. So there's another exception as well for staff recommended matters as well. So I'm not sure that the board rules speak to when in the meeting you can make a motion, provided that there has been either a staff recommendation or it's been through the committee process.
Thank you very much.
And I will second Charles' motion, Commissioner
I thought I
Nash's
did.
motion.
I think Marcia Hovey-Wright already seconded it.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, John. Are there any other, is there any comment on the motion before you?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes,
My
Commissioner
microphone.
Skolnick.
Yeah, I just, I'm probably going to vote no on this because I've gotten some calls and I kind of agree with it. We've paid everybody for quite some time with including benefits. And there are lots of people in the private sector who don't have this luxury. And I think that it's just in the issue of fairness. I mean, if you have people who are, well, I mean, when you're furloughed, you keep your benefits. You know what a huge deal that is? That's wonderful. We haven't, I don't know that there's an absolute right and wrong on this. It just seems in the issue, we're paying people just to stay home with all complete benefits now for, I don't know how many weeks it's been. What has it been? 5 weeks? I've lost track. I can hardly tell what day it is anymore.
3 weeks.
It's been more than 3 weeks. I don't know how many weeks it's been. I'll have to figure it out.
It's been 4 weeks. But
This will be the 4th week.
yeah, this will
Started
be,
on March
this is the 4th
13th,
week.
and it's April 14th.
Ken, did you
Correct.
have a comment?
I'm going to disagree with Bob. If you looked at the first comments that came from Beth Dick, we're not a private business. We're a service organization. The things that we do don't go away when we lose revenue. Services are still needed. Those folks need to be available when we come out of this system, however, whenever. All of the services that are needed will still be required. We will have to have people available because we are a people business. Thank you.
Zach, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So I take issue with the way this whole presentation started. They did refer to the fact that where county operates different than business, and whoever wrote that opening statement has not spent enough time in private business. Private business is no more simple than county government. We've got all these employees that we just went through the list that have been sitting home for 4 weeks drawing full pay. Government workers have been exempted from this entire crisis here at the county when probably 75% of the county that's paying this bill is laid off with no benefits. 90% of our company is laid off. Private industry is going to face the same struggle of refilling these jobs when they open back up. I know our company is going to struggle with this same situation. So I am not in agreement with furloughing these employees. They need to be laid off. The county taxpayers are taking a hit on this, and the county is going to take it because our revenues are dropping. We have got to stop the bleeding someplace, and a good place to start that right now would be to lay these employees off, and we need to put some austerity measures in place because there's going to be plenty of resources we're missing in the near future as this thing continues to unfold. The economic impact on this county is going to be devastating.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Gary.
Mr. Administrator Mark, you had mentioned 63 furloughs, but you had also mentioned that we cannot lay people off without going through the process. Am I correct?
Correct.
And the 63 number, not 23, came from the directors. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's where I was going. Where did the 23 come from?
That's the 23 is the volunteer that came from the directors. The other 39 came from the directors at two. Beth nor I selected these folks. They came from the directors.
Okay, so as Mike said earlier, we take recommendations from the directors on these kind of items. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, Marcia, go ahead.
John Snyder, I think we need to remember that we are a service organization. We are not a for-profit business, and we need to be in a position so that we're able to continue to provide the services. I think Ken Mahoney hit it right on the nose that somehow or other, we need to be in a position to make sure that the things that we do to serve all of the people in this county continue.
Marcia?
Yes, in looking at Beth's estimates on the impact of the COVID-19 crisis, the revenue would be down 0.986. It's almost $1 million, which, if I figured it right, which I couldn't, I mean, it's possible, but it's 0.02% of the total, or maybe that's 2%, okay? So we're not talking about, I was really pleased to see that the revenue decrease was so small. I thought it would be much bigger, and it may be in the future, but right now it's not. And in response to our attorney's statement that this needs to go to committee, Ways and Means is on the 21st.
Thank you, Marcia. This, this did go, we did ask at the committee level for this to come back to us here. So I think that recommendation has been fulfilled. Ken, did you have a comment?
All right.
Kim Mahoney, did you have a comment?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Madam
Saying
Chair.
Call for the question.
Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
One more comment, Madam Chair.
Someone called for the question, please.
Could somebody read the motion?
Yes.
The motion by Commissioner Nash and seconded by Commissioner Hovey Wright that 23 people volunteered for a furlough be extended the furlough, and that this process would be reviewed again on April 30th for additional furloughs based on new information.
Actually, can I make one adjustment to that?
Okay.
I don't mind if we review that before April 30th, but this could only be extended until April 30th. At that time, if it does go further, we would have to move forward with some type of furlough or whatever we decide.
Motion is
Those recommendations have to come back before the board.
Correct.
was a process until April 30th. You want that to be amended to come back to the full board?
Before more furloughs are made?
Board or committee, whatever, however we
Okay.
want to do it.
Okay, ready for the roll call?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
No.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
No.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Chairman Hughes.
Yes.
It's 6 yes and 3 no.
That motion carries. Thank you very much.
Can I say one thing?
Who is that?
This Commissioner Nash.
Yes, go right ahead,
I
Charles.
just wanted to say that I just think that we're doing a good job by taking this in phases. I don't think we should make people come to work that are scared. I can understand what they're going through because I have to do this myself, and I'm in essential service, and I don't like it. But then again, you got to kind of follow through. And I haven't given a furlough option, but if I did get one, I would definitely go home. So I think this is a great option for those people that want to volunteer to go home. And I think we can take our time in looking to this future, knowing that we have this April 30th deadline. And if we want to decide to do it sooner, that's fine. But I think it's just good to extend it instead of just, going to people that haven't volunteered right away and saying you're out of work. It gives us time to lay the ground.
Thank you. Mark, did you have anything else for us?
No, it ends our report, and I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Now we will move into, first of all, I'd like to tell you that at this time, we have 190 people on the WebEx today, 190. The public is in a different room. They will be moved if they decide to speak so that we can see them, they can see us. Before we go on, I do have one comment that was emailed to me. I'm going to start with that. It is from William Rudd, and he asked on the Finance Department to approve the resolution issuing 2020 judgment bonds and authorize the county clerk to sign. He wanted to know if the county administrator could report on how much of the judgment amount will be covered by the county's liability insurance provider and how that amount is determined. Since we don't answer questions during public comment, I will have the administrator get back with you on that. But thank you very much for your comment. Now we will move on to public comment. And you have to raise your hand to do that.
That's on
How do I
agenda
see
items,
that?
correct?
I see that. I don't see it.
Yes, number 8.
Okay. Yep, I'm ready now. And please limit your comments to 2 minutes or less and state your name and your commission district you live in. Thank you. Who is that? Ann?
Okay, Ann Derwin.
Okay, your time has started now.
All right. I listened to your discussion on the mats, and good to hear that you are considering more safety measures. But for now, promoting the quality of life and security for all people in Muskegon County is your duty. Our health director has told us the bus riders are a vulnerable population in our county and are at a higher risk. Therefore, you as a commission may very well be in violation if not properly securing the safety and health of all Muskegon County residents by not closing down the MATS bus system completely until all the preventative measures are in place. And I'm also concerned for the bus drivers because they may want to go home and not bring home this COVID-19. On another issue, it is evident from the 71-page agenda that you are about to choose a judgment bond rather than a judgment millage for the over $5 million judgment against Muskegon County. My understanding is this: a judgment bond is where the county borrows the money, it's a loan, and county property will be used as collateral. This will be done internally. It will be paid, but the taxpayers will know little about it as it's a loan, and payments will be made internally as well, so no transparency. A judgment millage, it's a millage that would be defined and the taxpayers would know the purpose of the millage through transparency. It would be on our property tax notices for the next 15 years. Therefore, the public would be aware of the amount for which they will be held responsible, full transparency. Either way, the taxpayers pay. With some exception, this board continues its irresponsible spending noted by previous meeting minutes, today's agenda, and whatever you have in the future. I'm requesting this board to regard those who have lost their jobs.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Yeah, so's yours.
And next I have, just one moment, please.
Is that 2 minutes? Did you time me?
Yeah.
Did I go over?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
can we make sure that these comments are about agenda items?
Okay. These are comments on agenda items only.
It was an agenda item.
And you're no longer speaking. Would you please mute your microphone?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. Dennis? Would you please state your name and your commission district and limit your comments to 2 minutes or less? Dennis, do I have you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. Dennis Noss. I'm a business agent with Teamsters Local 14.
Okay.
And I represent a number of the employees that have been talked about in your earlier proceedings.
Okay.
I want to address a couple of things. One is that the transportation is a vital service that is provided by the county, and hopefully we can avoid diminishing its effects by having layoffs or furloughs to the extent that your ridership is going to be denied the ability to get from point A to point B and back. And secondly, specifically, I want to address item 12I,
Okay.
which is the sheriff's request for the hazard pay. And indicate so that you know, I also represent the employees that work at the JTC, which is about as close to a correctional facility as you can get. The difference being the age groups that's being housed there. And I would hope that consideration would be given that they be treated as the frontline people in the world of corrections to the same level and the same extent as those at the jail and the sheriff's department. I know there hasn't been a specific request made by the JTC, which is now under the circuit court jurisdiction. And maybe that's something that needs to be had. I also know they were looking for resources within their existing budget. And if I understand how that budget looks, that's not going to be a feasible approach to it. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the request from the sheriff's department is for additional money into the budget to fund their recommendation, which I fully support. And
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate your time to come to us today. And next we have next I have Tony Barnes. Tony, you're up. Tony, yeah, unmute. Tony, are you unmuted now? Go ahead. Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay.
I
can't either.
I said I have no comment.
No comment? Thank you. Okay. We're just checking to see if we have any more comments. Takes a while to scroll through 191. We are good. That's the end of our public comment, and we will be moving on. Next, you'll see on the agenda communications. We've received one communication from Acosta County Board of Commissioners, and that will be placed on file and included with the minutes. Next, we have committee and board reports. The Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Community Development Strategic Planning Committee met on April the 9th. It was recommended I move PDSP 2004-04, approve the adoption of the license agreement with the Unity Christian Events Alive on the Lakeshore to provide a license for the use of Heritage Landing August 5th through the 8th, 2020 for the Unity Christian Music Festival, and to authorize the chairperson of the county board to execute this agreement.
So moved.
We have a motion and do we have a support? We have a motion and support. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Mahoney. Commissioner Mahoney.
Yes.
Knowles.
Yes.
Commissioner Stone.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Hovey Wright.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That will conclude my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. Next, we have Commissioner Wilkins with the Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Transportation Committee met on April 9th, 2020. It was recommended, and I move TR 200308, to remove 50% of all MATS buses from the roads during the coronavirus crisis for the safety of the passengers so that 50% of the buses can be sanitized while the other 50% are on the roads.
Second.
Madam Chair, I thought that was removed from the agenda.
It was removed. That was voted down.
Yeah, I think that was removed from the committee because it had already been done.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Right.
Didn't have no report.
Okay, so I don't think you had any items on that, Dorothy.
So that concludes my report.
Did I make sure that everyone has their telephones turned off and their microphones muted when they're not talking? Thank you, Commissioner Wilkins. I appreciate that. We will move on to the chairman's report and committee liaison reports. I'd just like to say thank you very much to Director Phillips and the IT staff. They've worked really hard to get this up. I guess 191 people shows that we've done a fairly good job today. And I appreciate all the work all of you put into this because it was greatly appreciated and you learning this with us. And I'm very impressed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any committee liaisons that have something to report? Seeing none, I guess one other thing I'd like to say, I'd like to just thank the employees that have, stepped up to the plate with some furlough options for the county and those that have continued to work during this and work at home and step up. I mean, it's just been amazing how the people that work for the county have stepped up to keep the people informed and the people supplied with what the county offers. Now I'm going to move on to the administrator's report. And it's a long one, so Mark, let's go.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. A, we'll start there. Approve the payment of the accounts payable of $3,323,235.52, covering the period of March 24th, 2020 through April 9th, 2020, for checks and P-card payments covering the period March 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2020, as presented to the county board.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mahoney, second by Commissioner Hovey Wright. Any comments,
Chair, I have a
questions, or
question.
concerns? Yes, Commissioner Laring.
Yes, so all of the items under the administrator's report, are these suspected to be they're supposed to go back to committee. I am wondering why this didn't come up under the finance committee. All these issues are coming up now and we could have been having committee reports and committee meetings for the last 2 weeks. Why is this now coming up at the full board before we've been able to review this stuff?
You've had your agenda for the last 4 or 5 days. If
This agenda came out last night at 3 o'clock.
okay, well, I got mine. We got everything except the motions from the IT on Friday.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Nash.
I wanted to ask our corporate counsel, isn't there provisions in our board rules when it regards in an emergency or some type of pandemic like this, that we have special circumstances and because at the time we couldn't really have meetings because we hadn't gotten approval for electronic meetings, and we've just moved along with this process just like everybody else, and we're trying to learn and grow with it. I don't think this is something that can be delayed continuously with some of these motions.
Yeah, I'd have to look up with emergencies, but your board rules say have an exclusion for staff recommended matters, routine county matters, resolutions and proclamations. I'm looking at rule number 6 on motions, resolutions, proclamations, and tributes. Well, it's true that the floor motions by members have to first be referred to committee. Those staff recommended items do not.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that clarification.
So I just want to make a comment back to my original statement. This agenda came out for the public to view. This agenda came out at 3 o'clock yesterday. That's 24.5 hours before the board meeting, just barely under the Open Meeting Act requirement. This might have been available to you and I, but not for public scrutiny.
Every public is required to have it 18 hours ahead, and that's what we provided it. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick, Commissioner Skolnick, Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Skolnick. I vote yes. I had my microphone muted.
Okay.
Sorry.
going to return to you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney, Chairman Hughes,
Yes,
8 yes, 1 no.
thank you, and that motion carries. Administrator?
12B, to approve the board chair sign the attached engagement letter authorizing Plant Moran LLC to perform the depreciation recapture service for the former Brookhaven Medical Care Facility.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Snyder, second by Commissioner Mahoney. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Yeah, I have a question about their hourly rates. They're incredibly expensive.
Thank you. Now you have a question on this too. You know, it's not like we didn't close down Brookhaven a couple years ago and get all of the final reports then. Why isn't this something that you can do, Beth?
This is
Beth, you got this?
Director of Finance. Yep. Hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So this request is to have Plant Moran, who is the company, the firm that has been doing these cost reports, which are very complex Medicaid cost reports. They've been doing these for us for years. And this is just kind of an add-on to what this firm has done for us for many years. To finalize, this will be the last thing we have to do for Brookhaven because we just sold the building. So this is only a calculation that is needed to be done upon closure and sale of the building, which just happened within the last month or month and a half or so.
Beth, it seems that your motion is wrong or you're wrong on this because this has nothing to do with Medicare according to the motion. It's for depreciation recapture.
Medicaid.
Depreciation and Medicaid?
So the rates that Brookhaven would have gotten through Medicaid reimbursement rates over the years that it was in existence, part of that rate is determined based on the depreciation. They get reimbursed for depreciation costs in their Medicaid rates. Now that we've sold the building, the state will want to see the calculations to see if there's any money that they've paid us that can be recouped from those proceeds.
Because it sounds like depreciation would have been how much the building had depreciated before we actually sold it.
Right, and so we sold the building at a loss. The net book value of the assets were around a little bit under $1.5 million. We sold it for about $800,000, and then after commissions and so forth, it's a little over $700,000. So there's still calculations that have to be done in order to determine whether there is any recapture, meaning money we have to owe back to the state. The chances are not likely that we have anything to owe, but we have to go through the steps in the process of doing these calculations, and they're rather complicated, and Plant Moran has done the cost reports for many years. They're very familiar with Brookhaven, and so they think they could do this fairly quickly, and they did mention that it would be at the low end of the range.
So this is this on the building or is this actually part of Medicare?
It is on the building, the reflection of the amount of proceeds we received from the sale of the building, taking into account what has been depreciated over time and how much Medicaid paid us over time for that depreciation.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Do you have any questions, Marcia?
Other question.
Go ahead.
Call the question.
Oh, okay.
I think corporate counsel had a comment.
Mike, did you have a comment?
I did. I just wanted to circle back.
Okay.
Under that rule 6, under the county's board rule, there are 2 exceptions. One is for staff recommended items, and the others are for motions that are deemed an emergency by a vote of at least 2/3 of the commissioners elected and serving.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate you looking into that.
Is anybody else getting this?
Is anybody else getting what else?
A lot of
Echo.
feedback.
I'm getting a lot of feedback from someone.
Hey, please mute your microphones and that will help. Okay? You're gonna have to unmute them when the clerk calls roll, so pay attention, please. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call on the vote, on the motion, please?
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes,
and yes.
and that motion carries. Thank you very much. Administrator?
12C, to approve the attached resolution authorizing issuance of 2020 judgment bonds, limited tax generation, general obligation bonds, and authorize the county clerk and the chair sign said resolution.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mahoney,
Second.
and second by Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Laring.
So how is this going to be paid? Is the payments for these bonds going to come out of the general fund? And how is the taxpayer going to know that they're making these judgment bond payments?
Beth, could you explain to us where they're going to be paid?
Yes, so because this liability is not covered by our insurance, it will be an obligation of the general fund. And therefore, we will have to include it as a transfer out of the general fund, an appropriation from the transfer, whatever the debt service amount ends up being, to a separate debt service fund that will make those principal and interest payments. And as I mentioned up in the summary, even though these payments have not previously been budgeted, you will find when you finally get your presentation of the 2019 final audited statements that we do have some good news, and that our post-employment benefits called OPEB, we are now fully funded, over 100% funded on that liability. So I anticipate that the savings from what we had originally budgeted for those payments could be used to make these bond payments.
Okay. Thank you very much.
My question didn't get answered. How is the taxpayer going to know that these bond payments are going to be, they're not going to see this if it's buried in your budget payment?
Well, it'll come out every month once a year, when we pay it, it'll list it.
It'll be an appropriation in the budget, in the general fund, to a debt service fund that will be labeled as for this particular bond. And we, in our annual audit, we disclose all of those liabilities detailed in the footnotes, and those payments will also show up in the accounts payable report that you approve every 2 weeks.
I guess that would be the responsibility of one of the county commissioners to let your people know if that's something that they're interested in.
So
Are we at a point where we know, as a practical matter, that we are going to have this obligation in this amount?
Beth, can you answer that for us, please?
As mentioned up in the summary of the motion, it says shortly a judgment against the county in a breach of contract lawsuit with a former vendor will be entered in an amount ranging from 5.1 to 5.6 million. So This is based on the information we've gotten from our corporate counsel. I don't know if Mike wants to
But my
weigh
question,
in at all.
my question goes back to whether or not there are other funds that might be available to reduce that amount.
So this is Mike Comier. I don't know because the county has separate counsel pursuing that. I have not spoken with him to find out where that is, but can give the commission an update.
I'm not sure, this is Beth again, what the question as far as you mean, oh, other funds. Yeah, I don't, based on where we're at today, I think we need to proceed with the liability at this point.
Do we know what the cost for bonding is going to be?
I couldn't quite understand what you said, Beth.
What are the bonding fees?
I don't have a total on that. It's probably somewhere less than 100,000 in total, I would think. Bond counsel and financial advisor and other that go along with the bond cost. I don't have the total at this point.
Beth, can you repeat what you said prior to that?
I just basically I said based on where the judgment is currently standing, it seems like we should move forward with doing the bond issue to put towards this paying part of this liability off.
I would like to just suggest that we be prepared to go ahead with it, but I don't think we ought to go ahead and adopt the motion at this point without further information.
I kind of agree with Commissioner Snyder, based on the situation with all the courts and everything being held up and be delayed.
What if we made a motion to go not with a not to exceed?
I think it would be best to have that once the judgment is entered.
I'd move to table.
I'll support that.
We have a motion to table and support. All those in favor, aye.
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 Oppose the same?
No.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
This is on the
Motion to table.
Motion to table would mean that it would have to come back when?
30 days.
It can come back sooner?
Madam Chair?
Yes, I think it could come back sooner.
With a motion,
If we have the right information.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
This is Commissioner Skolnick. I think that if this does get tabled, it needs to come back immediately because of the amount of interest we're paying on this thing right now.
I realize that. That's why I had hoped to pass it. We will move forward with the table right now. Madam Clerk, go ahead with the roll call, please.
Here. Commissioner Snyder, motion.
Yes, to table.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes.
Vice Chair Foss.
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Yes.
Commissioner. Did I hear Commissioner Laring say yes?
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney.
No.
Commissioner Ash.
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
No, and I'd just like to make just a quick comment that every week we table this, every week costs about $10,000.
Skolnick, yes or no?
No.
Thank you. Chairman Hughes.
No.
The vote is 6 yes, 3 no.
Thank you very much. That motion carries. Administrator?
12D, to authorize the Commissioners Board chairperson to sign the checklist opting into the CARES Act penalty-free withdrawal provisions for Muskegon County employees.
So move.
A motion by Commissioner Nash, and who was the second on that?
Ken Mahoney.
Ken.
Ken was the second. Any questions?
I have a comment about this.
Yes,
So
go right ahead.
So we haven't laid off anybody or furloughed anybody at this point. I don't know why we're adopting the CARES Act to give them another perk for being a county employee.
Thank you.
I
Anyone
think
else?
this is not a perk. This is something that's been directed by the federal government.
Thank you.
Not being laid off is a perk.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
This was
Commissioner
made,
Skolnick.
this was made available to help people who were laid off.
Correct. Anyone else? Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Wilkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Hang on just a minute.
Commissioner Skolnick,
No.
Commissioner Snyder,
No.
Hello?
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
6 yes, 3 no.
That motion carries. Administrator?
12E, create a deputy. E, to create a deputy chief public defender position with the pay grade NX 00421, 37.501 to 47.702, and appoint Madam Mateer, step 5 at 45.455, effective October 1st, 2019.
So moved.
Motion by Kim Mahoney, second by Susie Hughes.
Wait, which one is this?
This
E,
is number E. As in Edward,
Sheriff,
public defender.
oh, public defender. Okay.
Yes.
Yep, thanks.
Any questions?
I have a comment. So we're going to hire a new person just to manage grants in the public defender's office. If you look at his reasoning in the explanation, it's because the grants are difficult to manage. I don't see putting on another employee.
We're not putting on another employee. This is an existing employee that's stepping into a different position.
Okay, which half of his public defenders aren't working. So and it's to manage grants.
and also this is for a grant. To qualify for the grant, this is required. That started October 1st of 2019.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chair Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
8 yes,
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Madam Chair, could I just
Yes.
ask just a quick question? The grant covered the cost of this person, did it not? Isn't that what it said?
Yes, it
in
did.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, it did. Mr. Administrator, please continue.
12, letter F, to authorize local municipalities to repurpose and/or adjust portions of their FY20 senior millage allocation for emergency COVID-19 crisis response and support.
Seeing lack of support, we will move on.
I'd like to
12G.
say something on that.
Yes.
Yes, Marcia?
Yeah, I'm on the Senior Activities Committee, and where, what's in this proposal makes sense. I don't see a reason why we didn't go through the normal process. We were supposed to have a committee meeting this morning at 10, and that was not we could have done that virtually, just like we've done all the other meetings. This bypassing the Senior Activities Committee or the process that we've established is not the right thing to do, even though I think funding these and allowing some flexibility does make sense, because like you can't have a congregant meal when you can't congregate, but you need more home delivered meals. So I mean, there's reasons to be flexible, but it needs to go through the Senior Activities Committee, and I propose that we have an emergency meeting of the Senior Activities Committee, maybe next Tuesday, next week, and then have it come to the board, coming back to the board.
I think that needs to go through that committee, have them call a special meeting for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input, though. I really appreciate that. Marcia does sit on that committee.
Can I make a comment on this?
Certainly.
I didn't like number F because I didn't understand why F didn't come through proposal G.
I thought the same thing.
If we're doing COVID things, they should just go through that, and this is the time to request those kind of funds. But to repurpose, then you actually take away what we already purposed that money for. And
right.
I think it should just come through another situation like we have on here. With,
they can come back with that after they've talked to their committee.
Correct.
Administrator?
Madam Chair, does H apply to, or should I go ahead and read that?
You mean G?
G, sorry. Yes, G.
I think G is going to be the same thing. I think that it needs to go back to the committee and come from the committee. That's what we requested last time, and very easy to understand terms. So if you would do that, I'd appreciate that. Have the committee come back with it.
Which one?
That's G.
I know.
The same, yeah.
Who's asking for it?
That's the came from public health.
Oh, okay.
And
they bypass the committee too.
Yeah, I would have a comment there.
Yes, Ken.
Yeah, this is Ken. I'm on that committee.
Yes, he is.
We would appreciate having some respect that we vet those things as they come through and make a recommendation to the board. That was our charge to start with.
Right.
And to bypass it. It also said in the thing that we recommend, and I didn't know who was recommending if it wasn't the committee. So
a good question. Kathy Moore, are you on?
Yes. Yes, I am. No, I'm here. So again, my apologies. I'm sort of the liaison for this. So the first one, motion F, is the municipal allocations, which is not part of the Senior Activities Committee. So this was just the municipal allocations that the board approved in November for their plans, and just allowing them, because a lot of them submitted plans, and some of those plans were related to foot washing and or congregate meals and things like that. So this was just an opportunity for them to repurpose that. So initially the way this was set up, the municipalities were not part of the Senior Activities Committee, but we can definitely make them a part of it for review.
Yeah.
No, I would disagree with that.
The motion G is a recommendation of the Senior Resources, who is our grant administrator, who is basically on the ground, every day working with these vendors, managing the grants, but some of it, because of the executive order, some of the activities have come to a halt. And it was the request of several of the vendors. But again, I respect that decision. And I just feel like with the crisis response and the county closure, I actually wasn't sure how this committee and full board process was going. And so I submitted the motion. But I am happy to pull it back and follow the process as suggested.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Kathy.
Administrator, would you move on, please?
Yes,
H.
12H, to approve the sheriff's office accepting the Huron Manistee National Forest Cooperative Law Enforcement Agreement between the Muskegon County Sheriff's Office and the USDA Forest Service to have the sheriff sign the agreement.
So moved.
Support.
Or,
Any questions or concerns?
Madam Chair, I have a
Seeing
comment.
none, Madam Clerk, may I have a
I have
roll
a
call,
comment,
please?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have a comment. This is Commissioner Laring. So I don't know why the sheriff would sign an agreement with the US.
Yes, go ahead.
With the USDA and the Forest Service, but he won't sign an agreement with ICE. I'm deeply opposed to this. If he doesn't want a contract with ICE, I don't know why he needs one with the US Forest Service.
they have a better reputation.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
For 12H, Commissioner Hovey Wright.
This is for 12H. Yes.
Commissioner Laring.
No.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Yes.
Commissioner Nash.
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Motion is carried.
8
12,
yes.
letter I, to approve a 125 weekly hazard pay stipend to all MCOLS certified and corrections certified staff for an estimated period from March 16th through June 1st, 2020, or until the governor's executive order is lifted.
So,
Marcia, do we have a second? A motion and a
No,
second?
I'm not a second or a motion.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I made the motion.
Marcia, Realisty made the motion. Is there a second? Moving on?
I just like to make.
Yes, Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah. For this one, we don't know how many people are involved. We don't know the total cost. And it seems to set up, like the MCOLS certified people get extra pay and other people lose their pay altogether. So it doesn't seem like a fair thing. So, and they certainly deserve hazard pay, but I don't think under the circumstances that it makes sense or is fair.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Administrator, go ahead.
12J, to approve the creation and filling 2 additional part-time sheriff marine deputy seasonal positions at a pay table grade PS002 at $9.45 to $9.95. Approve an additional $1,000 for training and amend the budget accordingly.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Snyder, second by Commissioner Mahoney. Any questions? Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Yeah, I am aware that some of the marinas don't even know if they can open May 1st, and I know that I'm guessing there'll be less boating. We don't know if there'll be even a need for this, and I just wonder what was done in years past that during the boating season. Is the
sheriff on?
Well, I can tell you that within fewer people at full-time work, there are more and more boats out. All you need to do is go up to White Lake and drive by it on Saturday morning.
Well, yeah, you have a point.
This is essential. This is essential.
For fishing. Okay.
Any other comments?
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is this
Charles?
in additional to what we already have each year for the Marine?
The sheriff,
I don't
are
know
you
the answer
on?
to that.
Or the undersheriff? My understanding, the undersheriff is on, Ken Sanford. Can you speak to this?
Ken, if you're on, unmute your microphone, please. I will say, I believe that in the winter, it's part-time, they run the boats, and they don't usually have them in the winter, so I think that these are the two people they normally put on in the summer.
Madam
Is it
Chair,
this?
Madam
Well,
Chair,
Oh,
I'm
Ken
trying
is
to
on,
make
Ken
sure
is
that
on
that's
now.
the case. I don't understand if this is
Okay,
what we normally hire or is this additional to what we normally hire?
Ken Sanford is on now. Ken, could you speak to this, please? Okay, evidently he's not there.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner,
I
Yes.
can speak to this. We have hired these are usually students from Michigan State. They're in one of their law enforcement classes. It's a way for the students to get some experience. The pay rate is less than $10 an hour. It's only for the summer. I believe they deputize them. They don't carry weapons or anything. There is a serious need for patrol. They don't have anywhere near enough people to keep an eye on the lakes. There's a lot of water in this county.
and this motion comes from Norton Shores. They were requesting us to have people on Norton Shores, Mono Lake. So that's why our partnership is with them on this particular motion.
Is this
Something
fully
that we-
funded by Norton?
I guess nobody's answering my question. My question is this additional to what we normally hire every summer?
We have hired these same people every summer. I mean, different people.
I get
Charles,
that, but
I
understand that.
actually believe this is less because I've been out on that boat several times, and I can remember a picture with me and the guys, and there was like 6 or 7 of them. So I believe this is less than they normally hire.
Okay, because it says additional. That's why I'm asking the question.
I think it's only $1,000, but I don't know. I can't tell you that, but I know that
No, I'm not.
yes, they've had
the
6 or
amount.
7 people.
Yes.
Can you tell Ivan to unmute my phone? I'm on my phone.
Yes.
So I do
Sheriff
have
Coolidge.
Sheriff is on. We need Mr.
Okay,
Phillips to.
Ivan is going to
his phone.
unmute his phone right now.
6256.
6256.
Sheriff, you are unmuted. Sheriff, go ahead.
Sheriff,
Sheriff, you are on. Make sure your volume is turned up, I guess. Hold in on this.
Call the question, Madam Chair.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call the question. Madam Clerk, may I have
I
a
can make
roll
a
call, please?
comment
Larry.
while we're waiting for the sheriff.
We're going to go ahead and call the question, Ken.
It has
Well,
been,
let me just make a comment.
Okay, go
before we
right
go
ahead.
on to try
I'll
and
try to get you
answer
a comment here.
every year we've gotten a DNR grant to provide boating services around the county. This $1,000 from Norton Shores is in addition to that, I'm assuming. So not only
Right.
do we have the money for Norton Shores, we will also have some DNR money.
I have the sheriff on the phone if he may speak.
Okay.
Go for it.
Right. Can you guys hear me okay? Try this again.
Yes.
Okay. These two positions are additional to the current part-timers that we have. Right. You guys hear me okay? You guys the nod or something.
That is additional to the part-timers we have already.
thank you, because I'm looking at the reading and it says approve the creation and filling of 2 additional. And I understand we might have that need, but just in the light of what we're going through and what's going on right now, I think it's best to try not to move any direction on hiring and things of that sort. We don't know what kind of turnout we're going to have, especially with the social distancing.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
it's on 12J, Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
No.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster. Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Yes. Affirm.
And Chairman Hughes. Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
that's 6 yes, 3
Thank you, and that motion carries.
Item K,
Administ-
12K.
Yep. Mhm.
Approved to waive the formal bidding level requirement and accept the department level quotes to Dell for the purpose of Windows 10 desktop software, and to authorize the board to sign the agreement with Dell for $241,726 and adjust the budget accordingly.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Madam Chair? may I,
Yes, Commissioner
ask a
Skolnick.
question? If I understand this right, we're going to upgrade all the computers from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if Ivan's on or not. Are all of our computers, do they have enough memory and everything to do that? I'm not looking to buy more computers. I'm just curious.
Actually, we already did. All that
Yeah.
new equipment we purchased, the servers and software,
Right.
storage, this is what that new software is going to go on.
So the 948 computers that are going to be upgraded can easily accept Windows 10. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
In essence, this is, again, Ivan Phillips, IT Director. Sorry about that. Yes, the new equipment that we have currently will handle Windows 10. And that's exactly what we bought it for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ivan,
Anyone else?
could you also share
Yes,
about
Charles.
why we need to upgrade to Windows 10 from Windows 7, being
Yeah.
that 7's obsolete now?
Certainly. Windows 7 is no longer supported by Microsoft, therefore it's a security issue.
Thank you, Director Phillips. And I'd just like to say right now, with all the kids out of school, all the hackers are out of school too. So I appreciate you keeping us safe on that. They're all out there practicing on us.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
on 12K. Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
9 yes.
9 yes. That motion carries. Administrator?
12L, approved to waive the requirement procurement level quotes and allow department level quotes awarding the essential purchase of the backup hardware or software. Authorize the board chair to sign agreement with Centennial for $146,824 and amend the budget accordingly.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and support. Motion by Commissioner Nash, second by Commissioner Hovey Wright. Any questions or concerns?
Madam Chair, could I ask Ivan again? How much? I didn't.
Sure, go right ahead.
I looked at the information we got, and I couldn't include all of it. So, how much are we getting additional memory, and how much? I remember we bought like 80 terabytes a few years ago. Is this adding to that?
No, actually, good question. So again, Ivan Phillips, IT Director. Storage is for all the video, all these new cameras we're getting all the time. Installing at the county to record and store all that video. It takes a lot of storage. And we weren't anticipating on all that. So that's what that's for. On top of which, one of those units is going to be for our third site remote backup, air gapped in Ottawa County. So if something ever happened here in Muskegon County, we still have one last dying hope to be able to retrieve it from Ottawa County.
Okay, can you just tell us about how much memory this is? I'm just curious.
Sure, it's 200 and each one of those boxes is 280 terabytes raw, 260 usable. Each one of those boxes.
Wow.
There's three of those boxes. That's a lot of storage. I projected this to last us the next 5 years.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, go right ahead, Commissioner Laring.
Why are we avoiding or waiving the procurement level quotes on this? I understand that for the Windows 10 with all the employees working from home, but I don't know why we're rushing this one instead of going through the normal procurement process.
Dr. Phillips, would you answer that, please?
Certainly. Two things. One, the main thing is the sheriff's about to lose a grant if we don't get storage for it. You got a $200,000 grant. That's helped me, the exact number, of course. And if we don't get storage for it, he loses the grant. Grant goes back to the state. That's number one reason. Number two reason is we're right in the process of putting all of our storage in place. So with new software on, it only makes sense to put the storage with it.
Thank you.
So one more question, the cameras, we're adding all these cameras, but I think the only cameras that the board added were the for the sheriff's patrol, correct? What other cameras have we purchased?
We've got 5 in the treasury. We got two on each floor now, all the way up and down HOJ. All brand new cameras put in the courtrooms that Sean's been working on. It's not just for the sheriff, no.
And I have a question too, Director Phillips. Didn't we just put, I talked to the public defender and you set something up for them so that they could go back and forth to jail? That's not the same thing. Okay. Not the same thing. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
11, I'm sorry. Commissioner Nash.
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins.
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Yes.
Commissioner Laring.
Yes.
And Chairman Hughes.
Yes.
And Commissioner Mahoney.
Oh, thanks. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. That motion carries. Administrator?
That ends the items, Henry, but I do have the sheriff. He came down from sixth floor to be able to speak. Would you allow him to speak now?
Certainly. He came down from the 6th floor and he's going to take over Mark's computer. Sheriff, I'm sorry, we had you unmuted, but you must not have still been at your computer?
No, I'm at my desk and I don't have a camera on it, and I was just logged into the computer system, but utilizing my phone. And for whatever reason, it didn't work through the phone.
Okay, well, we'll get that straightened out.
Star-studded moment.
All right, go ahead. Do we have some questions for the sheriff? Go ahead. Go ahead and answer.
Earlier, I just want to address a few things. Commissioner Hovey Wright had asked about the staff at the jail and the with reduced numbers and no questions about any furlough days in there. I do want to remind each of you that the jail operations, most of actually all the law enforcement functions that we do at the sheriff's office are mandated functions. Our staffing levels in our correctional facility are mandated by the Michigan Department of Corrections by the amount of bed space that we have from them. You know, right now, even if, you know, I don't want to say if everyone's showing up to work, even with the reduction of numbers that we have, we're still at a 30-to-1 ratio for our staff and the amount of inmates that we have. We're still well over 300 as far as that goes, the inmates go. The less inmates that we have right now has created more work. We're doing one-on-one movements. I'm so proud of the work that the staff has done at this point to help protect those inmates that are still there, officers that are coming in from other agencies. The processes that we have set up through quarantine stations for inmates when they come in before they get moved. It's been quite a process. And as I listen and I hear from all the other sheriffs throughout the state of Michigan, I say that I'm proud because staff is we're about a week and a half ahead of everybody else on what they're doing. And the work itself has just been great. So I hope that answers your question there.
For that.
Yes. The other thing I wanted to comment, if I could, it was the motion that failed due to lack of a second, and that being the hazard pay. We all have heard over the last after the past month, many discussions about essential employees. Though I feel that every one of the staff members, over 120 some individuals at the sheriff's office, every one of them are an essential staff member. But what I want to talk to you about are the critically essential individuals. These are the individuals that if they're not there to help you, somebody can die. All right? These are the individuals that are not afforded by social distancing a 6-foot gap. These are the individuals that are not allowed hands off. They are assigned PPE equipment, but that PPE equipment serves no purpose until after the fact. Throughout the state, and we can look around everywhere that is going on, the hazard pay is nothing that is new. I'm requesting $500 a month is what it would be per deputy. There was a question asked about the amount of staff. 95 staff members will qualify for this. And if we ran for the whole 11 weeks until the June date, the total would be just over $130,000. Now, through salary savings that we have at the Sheriff's Department, I have enough money in my budget, already budgeted for this fiscal year. This is no impact on the budget, no additional impact on the budget. And I have the money in my budget for this to help these individuals out. You know, this started in the U.S. in January 20th, up until today's date. Up until today, 54 law enforcement officers have died as a result of COVID-19 during this period. Last year, there were only 33 line of duty deaths reported in the U.S. That's a 63% increase in officers' deaths. And sadly, the reality is these numbers don't take into account the 28 law enforcement professionals that were killed by felonious assault, motor vehicle crash, or anything else like that. Together, that's a 148% increase in officers' deaths over last year from January 20th to April 14th. These individuals deserve this additional pay for the work that they're doing. All vacations have been canceled for these people. All right. I've told you before in meetings that these are my heroes. I stand by these people. The Michigan State Police is receiving right now a $750 stipend, a pay period. City of Detroit is giving every city employee an $800 a month. Department of Corrections is also getting $750 a stipend. Local municipalities here, City of Muskegon is doing a $2.50 an hour raise plus $100 a week stipend from there. This is nothing that cannot be afforded. It's something, you know, we all know that this is a dangerous job, and I get that. And these officers, corrections and law enforcement both know what they signed up for. They can get in a crash, they can get shot, they can be stabbed. We get that. But if they're exposed to the COVID-19, they don't know that. All right. Then when they go home, they have to expose that risk to their families. My staff changes in their garages. They don't hug their children. Some of them are sleeping here at the department. There's no risk if an officer gets shot to his family. But to COVID-19, there is. These people have shown up to work every day since this has started. They haven't missed a day. They're representing this community, and they deserve the support of this commission by doing this.
Thank you very much for your input there. And I'd just like to say, your department's not the only one that deserves the support of this commission. And we do support all of our employees. And you're not the only department that deals with the public. You're not, I mean, the clerk's office, our IT has been not only in and out of every part of the building, they've been into people's homes, setting up their computers to work remotely. The health department, the over at Health West. I mean, there's hundreds of our employees that put themselves on the line of COVID every day. And I don't think we can single out one department as more valuable than any other. It's not that we don't think your officers are worthy, but it's hard for us to single out one department over any other. Even the volunteers at the door are putting themselves at risk. The other day, the court administrator, Patrick Finnegan, was down at the door and signing people in and taking his temperature, wearing a mask. Everybody is doing their part, and no one department is more important than another right now. But I appreciate your passion for the people.
Mr. Hughes, I appreciate those comments, and you're exactly right. I just want to make sure that we all understand that my staff is not afforded those opportunities that the individuals you're talking about have. They're not afforded a 6-foot gap. They're not afforded no hands-on. That's the nature of the job that they do when they report to work every day.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will move on. Next on our agenda, the long agenda, is old business. Do we have any more old business to come before this committee?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to
revisit under the administrator's report, item F, to allow the townships to utilize the funds as they best see fit within the township. I would like to make that motion.
I'll support that.
We have a motion and support. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
This is a motion to revisit, correct?
Yes. I do have some comments on that. Number one, when we gave that to them, they could use it for anything they wanted. They can use it if they want to use it for this. They're more than welcome to. All you need to do is go to the county commissioner. It's not making any changes at all. It's really just following the procedure that was set in place. You have to respect the two members of the board who say any time a change is actually made, it needs to go through that board. That's all I have to say on that. Anyone else?
So in the comment though, all of their plans have been submitted and approved, and these services are not being able to be utilized. And I think it's important that we give them the freedom to restructure their plans as the township see fit.
Thank you.
And
Madam, yes.
wouldn't this just be able to distribute the money to the townships? Isn't that what we're actually doing here?
You've already done that.
We've already done that. The money's already there.
It's the old money that was there.
The
We're not
commissioners.
giving them any new money.
Okay.
They're
I make a comment.
allowing some of the old money to be used for that.
Well, this is
Did
just
you have a comment?
This is a motion to revisit, correct?
Yes. Commissioner, Clerk Waters, could I have a roll call, please?
On 12F.
What are we, could you read the motion, please?
Yes, please.
Motion is to revisit 12F to authorize local municipalities to repurpose and/or adjust a portion of their FY20 senior millage allocation for emergency COVID-19 crisis response and support.
Can I say something here?
Sure.
This is not a motion to approve. This is a motion to revisit.
Yes, it
that
is.
item.
Yes, that's all it is. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
No.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
No.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
No.
Commissioner Nash,
No.
Chairman Hughes.
No.
4 yes, 5 no.
Motion fails. We will now move on to, let me look at my agenda here. It was quite long. We're going to move on to new businesses. Is there any new business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we will move on to public comments. The public, if you have a public comment, please get ready and we will be
Want to make it on mine?
moving on to that. I will call you out and I have the initials RP. Could I get your name, please?
It's Rebecca Place.
Rebecca, you will have 2 minutes. And can you tell us your commission district?
I am actually a Muskegon County employee.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to thank the board for, I know it's a tough decision to do furloughs, not to do furloughs. I think you guys have made a great decision today because though a lot of us are being paid our normal wages, we are not sitting at home doing nothing. I'm a court employee and I can tell you, I'm probably working more hours from home than I was at work just because the extra equipment, the extra work that has to be done to get these hearings back on the docket, to get the County of Muskegon residents to be able to get into Zoom and into the court hearings. So I just wanted to applaud you and thank you for taking the time to really step back and look at what's best for the county employees.
Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate that. And we have one more.
Did you call on me?
Just 1 moment, please.
This one is
And yes, that's you. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say my previous comments were agenda items. I just want to clarify that. It was on the Transportation Committee and the Administrator's Report, number 12C. I am really concerned about these people that ride the bus. I just want you to know that. I really am. I don't want them to get COVID-19 and I don't want them to pass it on to others. And as far as WebEx is concerned, just to let you know a little review of today, a lot of times your voice is phased out. I could hear phones ringing in the background. I could hear paper shuffling, and there was a lot of echoing. So just for your information, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Do we have any other public? We have no other public ready to comment. Are there any final?
Tony Barnes wanted to speak, but he can't figure out how to get in.
Can you hear me, Susie Hughes? This is Jennifer Hodges.
Yes, Jennifer.
Oh, I had my hand raised and you guys must not have seen it. It's under Ann Oaks though, because she used my phone for this before.
Okay.
I just wanted to Jennifer Hodges, Supervisor, Muskegon Charter Township, your district. I just wanted to thank the administrator, Mark Eisenbarth, for his communications these past couple of weeks. I know it's been a struggle. The townships have complained about communication leading into this, and it's been very much appreciated the effort he's put in these past couple of weeks. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you supporting our administrator very much. Thank you.
Move we adjourn.
We're not there
Hey,
yet.
we do have someone else who would like to speak who can't figure out how to get in.
Sorry.
There's another hand up as well. Christine Morris' hand is up.
Okay.
It just came up.
That just came up, so.
Just double comment. Thank you for the comment. Oh, wait,
This is Christine Morris. I had a couple of quick comments. One was, and I know County Administrator Mark Eisenbarth had addressed this at the last meeting. It was when you guys, if you think about layoffs, make sure that you keep in mind that the bumping that's going to happen and the detriment that's going to happen to the county as a whole. And the other thing was, I read in the governor's article that they weren't allowing motorized boats on the water anyway. So that was something that when you were bringing that up, it was something to consider.
Thank you very much, Christine. Appreciate your comments. Did we figure out how to get Tony Barnes on? Tony, we have you up and we have you unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Thank you. Hey, Tony Barnes, Dalton Township Supervisor, District 9, Ken Mulvey's district. I just wanted to echo what Supervisor Hodges said. The administration has done an excellent job relaying information to us, and I know I came to the meeting, I don't know, a month and a half, asking for more, and I want to say that the staff of the administration, Mark, with them, doing an excellent job with it. I would like to caution the county commissioners to be careful, unload all this work on Kathy Moore. She's one person. You're asking her to do a whole heck of a lot in the middle of a pandemic. She's done an excellent job. I'm not taking anything away from her. You're asking her to do a whole lot more what she's normally doing. She is a very busy, and I hope that you respect that she also has 24 hours a day, just like the rest of us. With respect to some of the things I'm hearing about this Matt's bus and the airport, look, I understand that there may be a commissioner that wants to see Matt's go away. Right now is not the time to be having that conversation. I mean, we've been hearing that, grown dependent on riding buses. We haven't heard a dang thing about the rich white people that's grown dependent on going in the airports. So can we just stop with the partisan games? Let's keep for the best interest of all the residents of the county, not just the select. Thanks and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tony. That's all we have. And now I will entertain a motion.
Wait, we've got board comment.
Yes, board comments?
We have final comments.
Yes.
So I just wanted to address the potential audience that couldn't make a comment to this meeting. They are welcome to file a Open Meeting Act violation if they're not able to make comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Larry.
Commissioner Hughes, can I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
I just like for us to leave on a good note, and all the commissioners give our staff a hand for their hard work and their due diligence and what they're doing through this pandemic.
An excellent opportunity.
Madam Chair, I have just a
Thank
brief
you.
comment, if I may. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Bob.
Okay. I just wanted to circle around on that judgment bond thing that got tabled. First of all, I think the motion to table was made too quickly. And I don't know if you realize what the difference is. We're paying on that because there was a judgment. We're paying about $40,000 a month on that. If it was bonded, it would be about $10,000 a month. If I think, I don't know, Beth, you could correct me if I'm way off base, but I think the interest rate that we're paying because it isn't settled yet is almost, it's like going to a pawn shop. If we bond it, the rate's going to be about 3% or maybe less, maybe a little bit more. And I think we're paying 10 or 12% right now. And this tabling it is fine. But if you had known that, maybe we would have moved ahead on it. If not, we have to do this quickly. We're just throwing money away. That's it. That's it.
I would suggest that we get that information from Beth so we can make a sound decision. And it's just been tabled, so we can always bring it back.
Right.
Yes.
The sooner the better.
Correct.
Right.
All right. Anyone else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
And we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. It was an excellent meeting today. Thank you to our IT and all of you who participated.
Stay home and stay safe.
Can we stay longer if we want?
Yeah, everybody's hanging up, but you can talk to yourself all you want.
Okay.
Glad to see you in good spirits, Bob.
Good night.